This is episode 45 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 45 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Dave Liburdi on the show, and Dave is a very interesting guy. I've known him for a really long time, but didn't know he was into real estate. We finally connected and started talking shop, and we went over everything today from Airbnbs to his student rentals to doing Burr projects in Hamilton. Dave's got his hand into a lot of different things, but he's got a very interesting story. He went to school, he became an accountant, he eventually traded that job in to become a full-time realtor and real estate investor. Dave presently has 12 properties and a number of joint ventures. The specific project that he talked about today in depth was an Airbnb that he's opened up near Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, which is one of my favorite places to visit. And he mentioned that he did as much as $6,000 a month in cash flow in the peak months of his first summer with that property. So it was really interesting to get that perspective of somebody that is doing a true vacation rental on Airbnb and to talk shop about his numbers. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the episode. The next Greater Hamilton REI meetup is happening on January 16th. So please mark that down in your calendar. And also, please make sure that you reach out to me at the Andrew Hines and ask me for the link to the group, or you can visit the show notes of this episode and there will be a link to the private Facebook group so that you can make sure that you're on the list for the event. These events are fantastic. There's a huge number of investors that come out to them and share stories, share best practices, and share their contractors. It's well worth the Thursday night, and hey, it's free. In other business, I wanted to take a moment and thank you very much for listening to this podcast this year. I just started it in February, and the feedback that I've received has been overwhelming. I've really appreciated everyone who's reached out to me and thanked me, everyone who's left reviews on iTunes and YouTube to let me know how you're feeling about it and what you want to hear. If there are guests that you want to recommend to me, by all means, feel free. And I wanted to wish you all a very happy holidays. Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. Happy Hanukkah. There's many others that I'm not familiar with that people are celebrating right now. Whatever you're celebrating, I want to wish you a happy one and a happy new year. And we will continue to post these episodes and have another fantastic year talking real estate investing. So without further ado, here is episode 45 with Dave Liburdi. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Dave Liburdi on the show, and Dave is a connection of a good friend of mine, and I knew he was in this space and finally got him on the show. Dave, thanks for coming.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and I actually through that same connection found out that you were also involved in real estate, so it's pretty cool when that kind of happens. And when I originally met you, you're playing in your band with Rob, and it was good to go to London, check you guys out, see you guys play. You guys had a good following. So
yeah, way back in the day when we were playing at the Barking Frog in London and Winks and all that stuff. So yeah, we've known each other a long time. I didn't actually know you were involved in real estate investing, and then Rob mentioned we should talk to each other. Yeah. And so finally managed to put this together. But from what I understand, so one, you're in real estate as a realtor now, but that's not your background, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I started out in accounting. I did an undergrad and a co-op program through Brock, and worked in accounting for several years, got out of it, went back into it, and then full-time into real estate. So it's kind of been a little bit of a back and forth, but real estate was always on my mind. So
you always wanted to be an investor. How long have you been a real estate investor?
Since 24. I bought a new build coming out of university, or just about a year out of university, and then started there. It was a student rental in Thorold near Brock University, and then bought a few more student rentals, and then from there ventured into different types of investing, whether it was single family, duplex, mixed use, some commercial, and Airbnb, so a little bit of everything.
Okay, so you've been doing a little bit of multiple different types of real estate. Do you still have the student rental? I
still have two. So I've sold, I originally had 4, sold off 2, and I still have 2. One, I have a pending offer on right now. I may sell that one, and then the other one I may also list it within the next year and kind of get out of that space, not because there's been any problems with it, but just in terms of taking the equity out and putting it somewhere else.
Oh, okay. So you've had a big equity boost over the course of...
Yeah, especially in that area, St. Catharines, Thorold, back when I started buying in 2010, 11, you could get a 6-bedroom student house for under 300,000, and now those are going for 5+.
Wow. And so you have 6-bedroom houses?
Yeah, both of them are 6-bedroom.
Both? And what are you getting per bedroom on those?
So again, I guess the market rate is about 500 a room, but because my mortgage is so low, I rent them out for less, like in the 450 range, and just get them rented out quickly so that I'm not kind of going back and forth showing the house a lot. I always get it rented out the first time I go up and find a good group, and that's it.
Okay, so 6 bedrooms, 450 a room. Run some quick numbers here just to get an idea of your gross rent. So you'd be at $2,700 a month on a 6-bedroom house. What would your expenses look like on that $2,700? So you're getting $2,700 in. What are your expenses like?
Again, I've sped up the amortization on the mortgage. So it was originally a 30-year. I bumped it down to 25. So now I only have 16 years left on them. So I mean, if I were to adjust that, it could be cash flowing a little bit better. But for me, it was just they were cash flowing well enough as it was. So I figured just pay down the mortgage a little bit quicker, build up that equity faster, and then whenever I wanted to use that equity, whether it was pulling it back out or selling it, it would be there. And so my total expenses are probably, my mortgage is, I'm just trying to think here, so it's bi-weekly. You could call it a $1,550.
So you get $1,550 on the mortgage. You're gonna have some taxes there.
Taxes are around $300
a month.
Yeah, $325. Yeah.
All right, so say $325 a month on the taxes. Insurance,
because the student rental is a little bit higher, so you pay a bit of a premium. I'm paying right now about $170 a month.
$170 a month, and I'll make a little note there. I want to come back to that because insurance is a very important topic when it comes to student rentals. So you've got mortgage, taxes, insurance. Are you paying utilities? I'm
paying utilities. Those come in around on average $250 a month.
So $250 a month on those. And you're doing well. How are you doing so well on utilities?
No, well, I have them controlled. So I either have one of them at one house is a Nest thermostat that I control, and the other one has a lockbox on it. So
okay, so you pay for internet to connect your
I
Nest?
don't pay internet.
No, so okay, so you connect your Nest thermostat to their internet.
Yeah, exactly.
to regulate their heat for them. I love that. Yeah. I thought about that. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I don't pay for their internet.
Yeah. Well, I talk to them about it and make sure, and usually if you treat them well, they'll treat you with respect as well. So it's kind of one of those
very true
things. Yeah. And again, I could just go there and set it, and there's a lockbox on it anyways, but it just kind of helps that they're willing to do that.
We're going to come back into that as well, because I've been having some challenges at one of mine lately too. And, I always want to be that reasonable, nice guy. And I don't want to be hard on people, but at the same time, there's a respect thing and maybe just a gentle reminder. I don't like being always like, guys, this is the rule. This is what the lease says. Like, I don't want to do that. I'd be like, guys, can you please keep the heaters unplugged? They're very expensive on electricity. That's one of the things.
And every group's different. And even groups that maintain the house really well might pump the heat in the winter and walk around in shorts and a t-shirt, right? I've seen that where I go down to the house and the heat's set at 26 and they're just kind of walking around in little short shorts and whatever. But it's kind of, that's when I put a stop to that and just say, I'm just going to put lock boxes, just keep it simple. If they show up to see the unit and it's already like that, then from the get-go, they're under the understanding that they're not going to. They're not
controlling it. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. We'll come back to that combo. So, mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities. Do you pay a property manager?
No, I
rental
manage
agent?
All my properties.
So you're doing it all yourself. Yeah. You're listing it for rent. Okay. So, any expenses associated with renting?
No.
Okay.
Just Kijiji. I use Kijiji.
Just throw it up on Kijiji, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got probably some maintenance and landscaping, I'm guessing?
Landscaping, I have a guy who cuts the grass. I pay him $30 a cut, and he does it about twice a month.
Yeah, for 7 months of the year? And like
7
your fall
months,
cleanups and stuff, he does all that too?
Yeah.
So what do you figure, you're like $700-800 a year to him, or not even probably?
Not even, maybe 500.
So 500 a year. That's pretty good. And we're just diving into the numbers here, but it came up, so I thought, let's do it.
One of the other main expenses I find is just appliances given and out all the time. So, that would probably be the biggest expense, and to get someone out there, it's not cheap.
Yeah, so that's why with maintenance, I used to say 5% was a realistic figure, and some years it is. But I think overall, if you're factoring in life cycle maintenance on shingles and appliances and all that stuff, your flooring eventually is going to need to be replaced. Those are big numbers, right? And in that year, it's going to hurt. So I'd rather just say my maintenance is, maybe I'll say it's 10%. That's conservative. The newer the house, the less. But I mean, sometimes it's just like, you can't even predict the stuff that'll come up, right?
Right.
So would you say if we allocated $2,700 a month times 10%, would $270 a month in maintenance?
It'd be high, but
so you're not quite 270, but if you wanted to say, hey, super conservative, maybe we'll say 250 a month for maintenance, things like that.
Yeah, again, it's probably high.
A fridge is $1,000, right?
I haven't had to buy new appliances.
It's just getting fixed. Okay.
And that's, I've owned them for 8 years. And the one was a new build. So, I mean, I haven't had any roof or, furnace or AC type of major costs there. The
thing with that, and I guess it's a judgment call, is how to treat it. Do you want to start factoring a number for that roof that's coming in 5 years now, or do you want to wait until the reality sinks in and then just sell it right before then?
Well, that's why I'm kind of looking to sell, even though they're not in bad shape now, but just looking to sell it before I have to start thinking about incurring some of those bigger
ones. The roof would probably be the biggest, then furnace, AC are the other two that are kind of, they have a life cycle that's a little shorter. But I mean, things like windows, if you're built in the last 8 years, you should never need to really replace those.
It depends on the builder, I guess. But
unless it was done Anyway, so I adjusted down to $200. We'll just say $200 a month for maintenance. And that's probably still conservative for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say 2,700 is our number minus sum of all of these numbers. What is your cash flow on that? So you're still about $163, even factoring for maintenance. Obviously, you're seeing more come in, and then some months you don't pay for anything. The months that you don't have landscaping, that's in your pocket too. But I averaged landscaping over the year. So $163, but you've done something very different from a lot of guys. You are paying your mortgage down faster. I don't know any investor paying down their mortgage faster.
You know what? I don't do that on every property, but for those two, because they were cash flowing really well, I just decided to do it. And because I wasn't planning on keeping them long term. So it was kind of an 8 to 10 year plan. I'm kind of getting into that range now. And the mortgage on those is around $200,000 now on both of them. So
mortgage is around $200,000. Yes, you're in a pretty good position. Your original down payment on the property
5%.
So you're 5% back in the day.
5% down. Yeah.
So your return on investment, if we were to calculate it, what did you buy them for?
So the first one, the new build, I paid $303 for that.
And that one's approximate cash flow we just calculated. Correct?
They're both the same.
They're both about the same?
Identical.
Okay,
yeah.
So we'll just do one of them. So you paid $303. You had 5% down on that. So it's 303 times 0.05 is $15,000 invested.
Yeah. And then I paid a few thousand just to furnish it, put in some appliances. So another $3,000 to $4,000 originally. Okay. And those are I still have the same couches, same tables, everything.
Okay. So you furnished them. That's good to know.
Yeah. Just the common areas.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I do the same thing. So furnishings. So we'll say you're approximately 20,000 total invest. And on that 20,000, you're getting your cash flow at 163 times 12. So you're getting about 2,000 a year in cash flow. You're getting mortgage pay down of like 5% a year. Off your original mortgage.
Quite a bit now. It's up to like 12, just over 12,000 a year that I'm paying down on.
Okay, so mortgage. Yeah, we'll just say 12,000 a year paying down on your mortgage, and then you're getting appreciation over the course of time. You probably get yourself around 5% a year.
Easily, yeah.
So 303, you bought it times 0.05. You're getting 15,000 a year there. I love to just every once in a while calculate these like really funny return numbers.
Yeah, there when you can put 5% down and you get major appreciation.
That'll help. Typically 5% down isn't an option for an investor unless you're borrowing, leveraging against other real estate, which is still, that's still effectively a way of getting a return on investment that's astronomical. But your return per year is 29 grand on something that you only had 20 grand into. So your return on investment, let's just see, over 20,000, 145.55%.
So it's okay.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Yeah.
No, but it's been good. Those ones I bought at the right time. I bought specifically because I had looked into I'm from Hamilton originally. I'd looked at McMaster for student rentals, and the prices around McMaster and Westdale were just way too high when comparing that the rents were about equivalent. What you could rent a student bedroom for in Hamilton near McMaster was the same that you could charge near Brock. So when you could get a house for 150,000 less at the time, it just made more sense to go that route.
Why do you think that people have shied away? Or I wouldn't say they've shied away, but they would typically go for Mac first. Why do you think that's the case? Do you see like a consistent demand at Brock?
Oh, for sure. I've never had a vacancy in any of the rooms over those 8 to 9 years. It'll be 9 years. And
you are priced on the lower end, right? So it makes it a little easier to...
Yeah, but again, I was priced originally when I first bought. I was priced like I've just kept them the same. So I was originally priced at $450, and I've just maintained that. So other investors have bought at higher price points. So now they started charging $475.5. But even when I was first renting them out at $450, which was high end,
that was high end back then.
It was high end because one was a new build and the other one was really nice as well. It was a family home originally that I converted into 6 bedrooms. So it only had 3. I added 3 more. And then, so that was hardwood floors in that one and updated and everything.
And
that one's only 20 years old as well. So it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they've taken care of all these properties? You haven't had
always? Well, yeah, because you can kind of select who you feel will be a good fit, because if I go down there, I'll have 6 groups in the first group of showings, and I'll pick one of those groups, whichever group. But usually I'll have out of the 6, maybe 3 to 4 wanting it right away, and then I can pick from those 3 to 4 groups which one I think would be a good fit.
Because they probably see your rentals compared to what else is out there and think, wow, this is a great deal, right? A well-kept property that's not that old, and they can get in there and pay a discounted rent compared to the competition. Yeah. So you get to take your pick, which I really like the idea of that.
Yeah, and also I made sure when I was buying them that both of the properties have very large windows in the lower level, if you want to call it. One's a back split, the new build's a back split, and the other one is a raised ranch bungalow. So the bedroom windows are halfway above the ground. It doesn't feel like a basement. So I've always, a lot of the times when I was a student, you'd have people arguing, who's going to be in the basement or who's going to get the small room. Again, all of them are good size rooms, and they all have good windows. So lots of light, and, you don't have people arguing about, which room. So
yeah, I haven't found a way to stop people from arguing about the basement completely, but I think that would definitely help, right? I'll try and do that. If I do put a basement bedroom in, I'll give them a 40 by 40 window and dig out a nice big egress surround on the outside of the house. I'll cut down the foundation just to make it better.
Right, and which a lot of people don't do, number one, and number two, with the new student licensing in Thorold, you have to have that, right? Because if you don't have proper egress windows, the city won't allow you to use those bedrooms to rent them out. So that's a problem a lot of these houses are having that used to be used as 6-7 bedroom student houses. Now, they go to apply for a license and they can only get it, 3-4 bedroom. So they're not allowing grandfathering in Thorold. Like if you've got something that's not compliant for fire code, it's like straight up you're out, or building code, whatever their requirement is. Yeah, which is probably the way it should be, right? But
it is. It's funny though when you just, because you'll have investors that'll have come in relying totally on that income, and now they're getting slapped.
Right. But again, that's I guess a little bit of foresight and planning and kind of making decisions initially to pay maybe a little bit extra to get a property that you're not going to run into those issues down the road if licensing became a factor. So that's kind of the way I planned it. Is that not to say that I envisioned licensing coming, but number one, I wanted it to be safe so that parents felt, because a lot of the times I have the parents co-signing, right, for all the leases.
So you get them as guarantors?
Exactly. So I mean, they'll come down, they'll see the house, they see that everything looks nice and organized and safe, and smoke detectors in all the bedrooms. So
Yeah, and I mean, I think that just makes sense. So that's more of the apply common sense rule in investing. Like, parents want their kids in a safe place, so you don't want to set them up to not be happy. I know with anything I was doing, I was always setting it up thinking, if it was my mom, she'd be like, the first thing she'd be doing is looking for an egress window, making sure that I can get out if there's ever a fire. And so the requirement is only one means of egress in the basement aside from the main staircase out. But I would make sure that every bedroom has that. Yeah. And I tell the students that they don't really necessarily think it's such a big deal, but I know that their parents will. And I know that they take, they'll walk in and take a video for their parents, when they come see the house. So you obviously want to make sure that you're keeping them both happy. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, foresight is huge. This is why I'm not a fan of buying stuff that's illegal. Because you just never know what day will come, when the city or municipality will start enforcing it, right? You might be okay for the short run, but then down the road, you're not. But you did bring up the licensing issue, and I've heard that there was some panic when Thorold did this. They were a little bit more aggressive with the implementation of it than some. And their pricing is also more than other municipalities as well, as I've heard. Could you talk about it?
It's $250 a year.
Is it? Okay.
Is the cost for it, and the initial application was pretty intense in terms of the amount of paperwork that you had to fill out. I think it was close to like 35 pages by the time you factor in everything, like drawings and floor plans and all of that. So it took me quite a while to put them together for both properties, probably at least 10 hours. A property.
10 hours of property?
Yeah. And a lot of people have other people doing this for them, right? But again, because I manage them myself, it's one of those things where, you gotta...
So you have to do a sketch of the floor plan.
Yep. Of each level, window sizes. You had to give like each bedroom what the window sizes were in the sketch. And then they come and do an actual inspection as well, just to verify that that's the case. But definitely... it took a long time, but you know what? They're still behind on doing the inspections. They haven't even, the guy came out to my house, because I had applied for it right away, which would have been April of last year. And I had to call the city to say I still haven't heard anything about the getting my license. And they said, oh, okay, we're still booking. We're just now booking inspections for 2019. And when the guy came out, I think he said they had been through only 30% of the applications, and that they projected that only of the student rentals in Thorold, that only 40% of the people actually had submitted applications.
Right. So then the next wave will be going out and finding the ones that didn't and making them submit as well.
Exactly. They're just so backed up. I think they have two or three people doing it all. So it's taking them a while. But
And do you think that this, I know this is kind of maybe outside of the scope because you're really only invested in student rentals there, but do you think that this is something that's going to happen? Just every city across Canada eventually will have this rental licensing, or where do you see this going?
I know Hamilton is talking about it near both McMaster and Mohawk. Plans and some sort of pilot projects that have kind of gone back and forth between the council and people, putting up a stink about it. But I think it's going to end up happening probably in Hamilton in the next year or two. And then again, across the board, it's especially with insurance companies and lenders finding it riskier. Like, I don't know on the lending side what you're seeing, but I know RBC, who used to lend on student rentals 2 years ago, is no longer doing it. I was originally with TD. They don't do it. A lot of the major banks aren't lending on student rentals. So,
well, the official policy, generally speaking, is no, just across the board. And I remember when I wanted to get into it, hearing that no one would do it. And I was working in mortgages, and I was just, anytime somebody came to me with a student rental, I'm like, oh boy, like this is going to be fun. And I'm just like, well, there are clearly thousands, hundreds of thousands of student rentals in Canada, and somebody's financing them. They're getting done. So I just resolved to find out how they were doing it. So I would just start investigating other landlords. It's funny you say that. So RBC, yeah, their outward policy might be no, but I was told no, and then I found another guy at RBC got mine done for me.
Okay.
And CIBC has been really good for getting them done, but as you've likely seen, there's been a cap to rentals in general to be held personally. Most banks have some sort of a limit that they're putting on. And as I was getting further along in this, I was realizing that I was getting more no's, and it was getting a little harder. And, I know that there's eventually a day coming where I'll have hit the traditional cap and I'll have to look at alternative lenders, credit unions, this and that. Add to that complication is that student rentals, like you said, the general policy is no, we don't want to finance them. But they may on an exception basis. So it's a tricky subject. I don't know that rental licensing is going to tie into that. It's tough to say if that's ever going to become a factor. I think that the real thing is that they're looking for functional houses. That lenders and appraisers, when they go out, they want to see a house that works for a student rental or works for a home.
I think if the lenders know that there's student licensing and that there's been an inspection on the property and that's tied to it, not to say that they're more likely to get into it. But,
if they know that,
yeah. So
cat's out of the bag then. Yeah. Well, a lot of it's what the appraiser says, right? I know appraisers used to look at if there were locks on the doors and then they'd be out. Right. If they saw locks on the individual doors, the appraiser makes a note. The bank reviews that note and they're like, well, there are locks on the bedroom doors. So this is clearly being treated as a rooming house. We don't do that. And that's the kind of response you'd get back. So, yeah, what's the right answer? I'm not completely sure, but I think the days of trying to slip them through, you can get one or two done that way, trying to sneak it through. But if you don't have somebody good that can handle student rentals, it's going to become challenging.
Exactly. And I think them being designated as student housing versus rooming housing, which are very different. Yeah. I think that makes a difference probably on the lending side going forward. And again, I think having a student license attached to a property as opposed to being seen as a rooming house may make a difference down the road. But again, I'm not on the lending side.
Oh, so, yeah. They don't necessarily respond to the logic there, even though it's not zoned as a rooming house. A rooming house is definitely a different thing. Sometimes they just start, underwriters just say, oh, well, we see locks. We're not doing it. It's happened, unfortunately. But like I said, I do think there are opportunities out there. I see things going more towards, for me, to continue building the student rental portfolio, either credit unions or going with commercial lending. Because on commercial lending, the banks are fine with it. Okay. So you could flip something into commercial lending and then you can basically start acquiring as many as you want. And there might be restrictions to loan to value. They might say 70 or 75% on an exception. But then there's no max. You can have as many as you want as long as they cash flow enough to service the debt obligation. So it's treated differently. And I think if you're serious about this business and you want to grow, I think that's ultimately what a lot of investors are faced with. Eventually, they just got to shift over. So Dave, I want to shift gears a little bit here. A couple of the other items. Insurance, you mentioned it's more expensive. It's really important that you have proper full disclosure student rental insurance. And I don't know how much you've heard about this or know about this, but basically if you didn't tell the insurance provider that it was students in there, they could actually deny your claim if the house ever burnt down because of something students were doing. Yeah. So do you have a really bulletproof policy that you're using? I
do. And I've gone through different insurance companies over the years. I was paying absurd amounts at one point, it was closer to $2,300 a year for the policy. 2,400, but I was able to find a new insurance company that will lend it at 1,100 per property. So it's.
And how many square feet above grade for context?
They're both around about 1,300.
1,300 square feet above grade. You should send me a note. I think I might have somebody that can do better for you. I have all my stuff with one guy that they have some sort of special agreement with their provider that they'll cover the student rentals.
Nice.
So for the utilities, like I said, you're getting a good number. So you said your approach is just be reasonable with them. Do you tell them what they can and can't do? And how do you stop them from plugging in a heater?
You know what? I've never even come across that issue where I've seen someone with a heater in the house. And I don't know if that's just by leaving it at a certain reasonable number. It just kind of heats the house in their newer houses. So maybe it's more efficient, but never had heaters. Even when I was a student, a lot of people used to have individual fridges in each room. I haven't had that issue. I have 2 fridges actually at each house. So 2 full-size fridges in each kitchen, and that kind of covers all 6 students. So they don't have the need to each be plugging in individual fridges in their rooms. And other than just the standard, similar to your house, right? What you would normally pay at your house is what kind of have paid.
You're getting some good tenants, man. I mean, I think I have good tenants too, but I have a 6-bed and 2 fridges just like you, and, newly renovated, good furnace in there. And I walked into the one student's room and he had his vent closed and covered by a couch and had a space heater next to his bed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Makes
and I'm
sense.
just like, was any thought given whatsoever? And then, pretty much every single room had a mini fridge plugged in, when I have 2 giant fridges in the kitchen that aren't even full. And I don't think it's that they're like trying to be, bad or anything like that.
They just don't know.
They're just not thinking, right? They don't understand what it costs. Their parents are paying for their rent. So it just, to them, it doesn't, it doesn't
they've never
register.
paid for utilities before, right?
So they don't, they don't get it. So how would you handle that? Because I've had a really easy time with it in the past. I've really never had the problem because I provided it. And within reason, I just let it slide. But for that house, it's gotten a little bit beyond. And I don't want to just keep coming down on them for stuff.
Right. And I guess you've tried to have a talk with them and they haven't. I mean,
well, we just went through a bunch of stuff about garbage. Like, they were not handling garbage well, and I've kind of been coming down on them. So I want to like take a little step back, and like, I don't want to like constantly be, kind of.
Well, and I don't know if it's something as simple as in the lease. And again, I got this from when I was a student. The one landlord had in the lease that she would cover utilities up to a certain price.
I used to do that, actually.
Okay.
I need to go back to that.
Yeah.
Well, it's always implied as reasonable use, right? But I don't like quoting the rules back to people. I prefer to just say, look, guys, this is costing a lot. I guess that's probably the right approach. I need to just get to it. It's been on my list of many things to do. But, look, guys, I know you probably weren't aware of this, but, mini fridges obviously use a lot of electricity, and, it is part of the lease that they aren't going to be used. If you absolutely need one, let me know and we can work something out. I want to make sure you guys have what you need.
For sure. Yeah. Just being upfront right in the beginning, everyone understands what the expectations are. And then.
Oh, it's in the lease, right? But I think the kids, like, they fly through the lease. They fly through the lease, right? Like, you can put a lot of stuff in the lease and they're not even going to read it. It's hilarious. I'm a very fair and reasonable guy, but I mean, if you were a sneaky landlord, you could put some stuff in there.
Oh, definitely.
Sure.
And again, at the time, the whole reason I even think back to that one landlord was not knowing what reasonable utility rates were. And she had a certain amount in there. We were over every month. Not because we were abusing it, but because the amount that she had in there was so ridiculously low. And she did that on purpose because...
So you guys paid the difference?
We paid the difference, right? So this was, back 12 years ago. But again, if it was $100 a month, right? I mean, we were probably at $250 a month.
I can't imagine how $100 a month makes sense.
But, signing it, not knowing what utilities are going to cost. And when she says this is a fair number, you assume that that's the case, but you kind of learn from that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say on my newer stuff, I probably see an average of, on the 5 beds, like $250 a month across the year. And then in the 6 bed, I'm closer to $300 a month across the year. It's a bit bigger a house. And obviously you have extra people showering and using power and this and that. So I guess at the end of the day, like, I can't complain because the summers are like gravy. Summers, there's like $100 a month in utilities. And then the winters, obviously it picks back up. But, no matter what, still, I'm fortunate to even have these rentals. It's a good problem.
Yeah, definitely. How many student rentals are you at now?
I have 4 houses. Okay. One of them's a duplex. 3 of them are ones that I renovated. One of them was one that I bought from a guy who was downtown. And, I much prefer to renovate it myself because then I know what was done and how well it was done. But, they've all been fantastic for appreciation. They've all cash flowed. They've all been great for appreciation. And, by using some creative financing and this and that and renovating, I was able to acquire those all pretty quickly. If I had had to save, we'd still be talking about it. I would never have done it to get them. So that's been my strategy. I don't know what your strategy has been. Like, I guess you had some creative down payments there a couple of times. And
and again, partnering with some people who were in a similar position. So even before I knew what joint venturing was, I was doing it. Just from talking to people about my one rental when I was getting that up and running, my one student rental, talking to a friend I went to university with. We ended up doing one together, ended up doing one with a family member, and we were able to take advantage of that, put 5% down on all of them. And
okay. Yeah, that definitely helps, the 5% down. So yeah, walk me through where it started for you. Like, when did you know you wanted to be a real estate investor? When did you know that was going to happen?
So it was pretty funny. It was by chance. I was going down to Croatia. It was my last summer heading into out of university. So I was going into fourth year, my last semester, and went to my family to Croatia with my family. And we were at the airport. I had gone out the night before, not even thinking, this is going to be an 8-hour flight. What am I going to do? So I went into the bookstore that they had there, and I saw a book called The Automatic Millionaire, Homeowners Edition. So I picked it up, read through it. It made a lot of sense in terms of building wealth through real estate. And at that point, I knew that was what I was going to be doing once I graduated.
Awesome. So accounting was your stream. So you still did that. Probably helped you qualify for the mortgages to get the properties that you got.
Well, and again, this is a little bit funny, maybe due to the timing, but it was actually through stocks that I was able to really build up some money to invest in real estate.
For down payments.
Yeah. So it was right after when I graduated. It was at the end of 2008. So we just had that recession. And while I was doing accounting exams, I had met a guy who was investing in stocks. So we kind of talked back and forth. He was investing in stocks. I was going to be getting into real estate. So we kind of were picking each other's brains a bit. And it was a good time to be investing in stocks because obviously everything had fallen.
Everything was so far down.
A little bit of timing, luck and timing. But so I started, that was in 2009, started investing in stocks. I took the money that I had saved from working and put it all in stocks. And people thought I was crazy because the markets were down and all of that. But it was that's how I was able to build that nest egg to kind of then put deposits down on real estate properties.
How much did you put into stocks at the time?
I had 35,000.
So you put 35,000 in when it was low, and you must have tripled, quadrupled that.
Yeah, I was investing in a lot of junior mining stocks. So again, there was a lot of research involved. I was almost doing it full time. At one point, I actually took a full year off and was just investing in stocks.
Oh wow!
So it's a little bit different.
Know that.
Yeah. So it was. I knew I didn't want to be in accounting from going through the co-op, which was tax seasons, working hard, long hours, and it was pretty brutal. So I knew that wasn't going to be where my future was, and I decided at that point, once I started, I was working still and investing in stocks, and it was going really well. I was making more money investing in stocks than I was working. Yeah, 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week.
Even after the market rebounded.
So I wasn't in accounting for that long.
Okay.
So I graduated at the end of 2008, worked in accounting until mid 2010 and started investing in mid 2009. So I was investing for about 9 months in stocks, and then that's when I went full time into it for another year or so.
So you left your accounting firm, did your stock investing for another year, and then you went back and got
and then that's where I learned about, once I started buying rental properties, I started learning on the financing.
They want to know you have a job.
They want a job attached to you. So so that's where I actually, again, luck of the draw, I ran into someone that I used to work with at the accounting firm who was in business valuations and litigation accounting. He just had left that accounting firm to start his own firm. And he said, why don't you try it out? It's a lot different than auditing and that side of accounting. It's a lot more critical thinking and judgment, using your judgment. So I ended up working with him for about 4 or 5 years. And then, that's kind of when, again, I transitioned into real estate full-time.
Now you're a real estate agent. So you kind of lined that up while you were working there. And are you working with investors mainly?
It's about half and half.
Half and half. So investors, homeowners. Okay. And as far as your investment portfolio, you said you got the 2 student rentals now. You've got a couple of vacation rentals, if I'm not mistaken.
I have the one so far. So that's new. That just started 2019. It was, we bought it 2018. It was a big renovation, pretty much a full gut, all new insulation, new windows, new siding, everything. So that we just started renting. January of 2019, we were still kind of just finishing touches here and there. We put it up on Airbnb, and it takes some time to build up, get some reviews and that before people feel confident booking it as well. So we probably by about June is when we really started to see a pickup in the number of bookings we were getting.
So you're getting more bookings now. Okay, so that's in St. David's, right?
Yes.
Near Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Yeah,
I love that area. I wish I'd gotten into Niagara-on-the-Lake like 3-4 years ago before it doubled.
Yeah.
What kind of price point did you buy that one at?
So again, because it needed a lot of work, and there was a lot of structural work to do as well. So we opened up the main floor, did a vaulted ceiling. There was a bedroom above it before. So there was a lot of structural, we had to get obviously permits and do all of that, but we bought at a really good price point, $367.
$367, and how much were you on the rental? Like 150? In
around there. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in for close to 500 grand. And what can you, summer's obviously your prime time. Yeah. If things are going well, what do you figure you can pull in a month, in a summer month? So
this summer, which was our first summer, obviously, we actually were pulling in gross rents about $8,500 in July and August.
$8,500, yeah. And then what do you figure it'll be for the other months?
September of this year was about 47, and October was 35, and November was break even. Well, break even meaning about 2,100.
2,100. Okay. And eventually you'll have to charge HST, or are you already at that point?
We're pretty well.
Pretty well getting there.
Now, yeah.
That's the frustrating part. So you'll have to adjust your rents a little bit. But if you get the superhost status, that's going to allow you to.
We have the superhost status. We also have the Airbnb Plus, which has been.
Oh, you got superhost already?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Nice work. That didn't take you very long.
No. It's been really good. We're up over 50 something reviews now, and that's not even the number of stays, because obviously not everyone that stays leaves a review. But it's been, because in Niagara-on-the-Lake you're going to get a lot of like 2-night, 3-night bookings, or even 1 night if it's during the week. But we typically, like on weekends, we do minimum 2 nights.
Minimum two nights. Okay.
Yeah, like you'll get the odd week here and there that someone will book it for a full week, but majority of the time it's someone coming in for 2 or 3 nights.
How do you find, and I think your perspective is really valuable here, because you're just dipping your toe in the market of Airbnb. How do you find it as an experience so far?
Well, the whole reason I did it was because I like the area. I like going down there and spending time down there. And when my wife and I would try to book a hotel room any time between May and September, it was, you're looking at $400 a night. So the thinking there was, okay, like we like going down there. We, maybe once, twice, 3 times a year if we can. What if we bought a place where we could rent it out for $400 a night for a full house? And then obviously that's going to attract people that are looking at, when they're comparing a hotel room for $400 or a full 2-bedroom house for $400. So
now, but on that note, did you not see a value in trying to do it as a multi-unit, like get a legal conversion and convert it into 2 units and have?
No, this specific property, again, I wanted, location was key. So I'd been, I'd seen probably 2 or 3 houses in the same area over 2-3 years before buying it. So I'd known for a few years that's what I wanted to do, but it took me time to find the right property. This one backs onto a ravine. It has, a great view, and it's easy to rent out. So yeah.
Well, $400 a night sounds great.
Yeah, well, it's a good deal for everyone, right? We still cash flow very well off of $400 a night, and for other people who are, again, comparing it to what else is out there,
I know it's still early, but if you figured your first full year as a super host, if you averaged it out, knowing that I think November would probably be your slowest month, would you say so? Or are you seeing that? Because I guess we're in November right now.
November's been, again, we've had every weekend booked, but the difference is you're not getting people coming down during the week. So June, July, August, September, you still have people taking vacation, wanting to go down to Niagara, and they'll be coming down. Like we'll have pretty much almost every night booked during the week as well as the weekend. We've had every weekend booked since June, all the way to end of November. First weekend, 2 weekends already in December booked. So yeah, so weekends definitely no issue. Where you're going to really cash flow on them is the being able to get bookings during the week. So
yeah, bookings during the week are obviously going to be the lifeblood. You're either getting them or you're not.
And again, like with tourism and that, Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake, usually people are doing that when the weather's a little bit warmer. So you have to anticipate that the winter is going to be a little bit slower. But the goal is, at least if we can break even those months and cash flow really well the other months, then
oh yeah, well, you're in a great spot for so many reasons, because for those who aren't familiar with the area, it's wine region. I've met many Americans that will specifically call out Niagara-on-the-Lake, and St. David's is next door, as a place that they look forward to going to. Like they'll drive up here to go there, right in our wine region. So already huge appreciation down there.
I'd say at least 40% of our bookings are Americans.
Right? They want to come up, because they don't really have anything comparable nearby. So, they'll come up from Philadelphia, just to come see our wine region. Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. We've had people from LA, people from China, people from Brazil, Mexico. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
And it's not so much the super host. I think that's opened the doors for that. It's the Airbnb Plus. So that's a different kind of designation on the website where you've been certified, almost like a student license, where they come out, they inspect the property. You have to meet certain criteria. It has to be its only purpose can be for Airbnb. It can't be just, you rent the house out from time to time when you're not going to be there, that type of thing. So it's a different standard. And a lot of the Americans I know, even some people that I know here in Canada, that have said they'll only book Airbnb Plus properties.
That's good to know. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, because they know what they're going to get. They know that the standard's a little bit higher.
What do you figure your cash flow will be like when this stabilizes? So your Airbnb Plus, your Superhost, obviously it looks like July, August, you're making like $6,000. But then the other months, is your worst case a break even? Or is it worse than that? Over the course
of the year?
Yeah, do you think?
Even this year being our first year, will be probably positive cash flow of, January and February, we were probably about 500, 600 under break even. So, losing a little bit of cash there. But then by March, April, and again, this was initial stages. We were just getting it set up and just starting to get
I don't think you see it the same way.
We didn't have Airbnb Plus. So yeah, if you were to look at the second half of the year, maybe as a better indicator, like September, October, November, December, our goal is to at least break even during the downtime.
So shoulder seasons are hopefully break even, and then the summer is where you rake it in, and even spring and early fall, you're going to have some.
Well, yeah, again, September of this year, we were over $2,000 in
cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you figure on the year? You'll be like around $2,000, you think, on average?
So I think this year, on average per month, we'll probably be at around 1,600 if you were to average it out over the year.
Is that factoring in that you're paying for a cleaner? Are you paying for a cleaner?
We that's factored into the Airbnb fee. So that's
so you just charge for it. So when you tell me you're 8,500, you're netting off your cleaning fee.
Yes,
because you pay that to the cleaner.
That's the amount we get from Airbnb. Yeah.
Okay, so cleaning's not an issue. Do you find it's easy to find somebody to do that stuff down there?
Again, maybe not easy, but we have a company that has been pretty good for us. Again, you have hiccups here and there where they miss things and you get a complaint and you have to deal with that. So that's been a little frustrating at times, just because it's nothing that you can really do about it. It's out of your hands. You're kind of expecting you're paying someone for a service and they're going to kind of do everything that they're supposed to be doing. But, sometimes people make mistakes, things get missed and that.
Do you take like pictures and have notes of exactly how things should look?
We don't. We've thought about making a checklist when certain things have got missed, whether it's like unloading the dishwasher or
that'd be bad.
So yeah, so it's things like that. But they've been pretty adamant anytime that there's been something missed, like it won't happen again. got it covered now, and to be honest, it's been pretty good lately. So until we really feel we need to, then we might implement a different system where they're actually, there's a full checklist. They have to check off every item on the list and send it to us before receiving payment. That would be,
I think checklists are the way, man. It's on my to-do list, but it's one of those things where you've got all the urgent things that need to be done today, and that's like, I can get by without it, but if I don't ever do it, it's just gonna keep making my life more difficult.
For sure.
So it's one of those things that, I mean, I do a lot of different things. Like I want a checklist and a manual in my student rentals on the wall. Like I have my email series that I send to them, like at certain times of the year.
Okay.
But I want to take that a step further and have a laminated house like guidebook. Everything they need to know, who to call, rules of the house, all that stuff. Like it really does make sense. And I know people do that with Airbnb. I think that if you have renters, do that with every house, and it makes you look professional too.
Yeah, and we do have a house manual, and when someone does book, you do send out instructions about house rules and
absolutely,
whatnot. But so our Airbnb is a good platform, and how they've applied it to both the person listing the property and the people who will be staying there. I think it's expectations. What are the expectations of you as a homeowner? What's the expectations of the people coming? And if they align, then it works out. And I guess it's the same way with any sort of rental property, whether it's student rentals or whatnot. It's just aligning everyone's expectations and making sure that it works.
It's just with with Airbnb, you're kind of vulnerable if they do leave you a bad review.
Well, yeah, to a certain degree. But again, most of the people on Airbnb, the platform, they're using it constantly. They're going from here to there and staying in cities, across, whether it's Canada, the US. So I've only found a few times, and again, this is maybe the learning curve of Airbnb, but initially when we were renting it out, we had a few groups that we weren't happy with on our end. Okay. And a lot of that was, someone who's just signed up for the site and they don't have any reviews or they don't have any history. Our initial thought was, well, we want to just kind of get some bookings and get some reviews for ourselves, not thinking that, okay, well, if they're maybe not a good fit on our end. And, we had that happen once where it was student reading week. We had a group of students come down from U of T, and they weren't bad. It wasn't a crazy party or anything like that, but they left the place pretty messy. Obviously didn't read the house rules and instructions, and we had to pay double the cleaning fee. We messaged Airbnb, they reimbursed us and kick those people off the website. But so they've got a good platform because they want to protect their landlords, exactly, right? Yeah, they want everyone to be happy, and if it's someone who's going to abuse it on the stay side, then they'll get rid of them. So
what do you see is happening for you next then? So you've kind of dabbled into this. You've got 2 student rentals and you've got this. Do you have any other properties?
Yes, all my other properties are in Hamilton. So in total, and then the house I live in Burlington, but in total I have 12 properties.
Okay, wow. You're crushing it. Nice.
Yeah, it's been steady. So, when I first started out, all in 2011, I got the 3 student rentals all within a few months and rented those out. Then the following year, 2012, I bought another student rental. And then the following year, that's when I started getting into Hamilton and investing in mainly duplexes, but I have a few single families. Yeah. One of them not by choice. It was actually an issue with the zoning. And again, at the time, you're relying on who's representing you as a real estate agent to be doing their due diligence and looking into everything for you. And we bought a property that was listed as a duplex on MLS. It was set up and fire escape, everything. It looked legit. The agent said they looked it up, that it was a legal duplex. And then sure enough, a few years later, the neighbor had a dispute with one of our tenants, called the city, said that the fire escape wasn't legal, and the fire inspector came out, said, yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the fire escape, but wait, this isn't a legal duplex. So that's kind of where we fell into a few issues in terms of the zoning not being able to meet the criteria for a legal duplex. And now are just, fortunately, we bought it at a price point where it works as a single family pretty comfortably, but at the same time, not something you want to have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely not. So are you typically the guy that goes in and does the reno, or are you just want to buy the ready to go turnkey?
Sorry, I mean, I thought you meant in terms of going and doing doing the work myself, but yes. No, typically I look for houses that need work.
Okay, so you're doing sort of the Burr model. You're going in, buying them, renoing them. Are you converting duplexes in Hamilton? Have you done that?
I have done that. I've also bought some that were duplexes that needed work. But and the one property I bought was it's probably one of my favorite properties. It required a big renovation. At the time, this was 4 years ago, and it needed about 90,000 put into it. But it's a 2-story residential unit on the upper 2 levels, and then a main floor commercial. So right in the heart of downtown near James Street North.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you've got a lot of different locations and kind of ideal spots in Hamilton then?
Yeah, a lot in the north end of Hamilton because I feel there's a lot of room for growth there. And then
it's a cleaner part.
Yeah. And then I've also invested on the east side. One of the more recent purchases was in Dundas. But yeah, a little bit all over wherever I can see that there's the need for value add, then I'll see that as an opportunity.
Sorry to correct myself. So I guess the north end depends on where. If you're over on the like closer to the Barton Center,
right?
That's an area to add some value.
Yeah, no, I mean north end Harborfront.
Yeah, that's a great area. Yeah, so obviously there's so much potential to add value in Hamilton because there's just so many properties that need it. So if that rental licensing ever comes in, man, there's going to be a lot of units that get taken out of the rental pool.
Oh, for sure.
That would be pretty dramatic. So
I don't see it happening, especially with the way rents have gone and the need for affordable housing in Hamilton. I don't think they do it.
Yeah, they're going to be delicate about how they do that for sure. Yeah. So how have you primarily done this? Has it been like you go in and you do the Burr project where you do the reno and you go back to the bank and you're able to get enough out? Or are you doing this with JV partners that are putting in the cash and you're just kind of managing the whole process and the asset?
Again, every property has been a little bit different, whether it's a Burr or we're planning to pull money out or whatnot. But I think it just depends on the opportunity. So to give an example, that property in Dundas, it didn't need a lot of work, but the layout was funky. So, and it's right in the heart of downtown Dundas as well. So really good location. But people walking through it weren't able to visualize kind of maybe how it could look. And we were able to buy it, do some structural work to it, and it makes a lot more sense now. It's a semi-detached, but it's got a 35-foot wide lot by 126 feet deep.
Okay, that's a good size lot.
Yeah, and maybe there's the potential to buy the other half at some point in the future, and at that point it'd be over 55 feet. Wide.
So it's a semi-detached?
It's a semi-detached, yeah. But with the price we got it at, we put in about $27,000 and figure it's worth about $130,000 more than we paid for it.
So you're up $100,000 in equity then?
Yes.
And have you already refinanced that one?
With the plan not to refinance it, we actually plan to either sell it relatively soon or potentially talk to the neighbor about buying the other half, and then keeping them both, because even as a single family rental, it would cash flow right now based on the numbers about $500 a month. Okay.
And out of the 12 properties, how many are joint ventured then?
Out of the 12 properties, 9.
9. Okay. So that's been something. And when your typical joint venture, are you bringing money in, or is it expertise that you're bringing?
A little bit of both. So again, it depends on the partner who I'm partnering with. Someone who's maybe has some experience investing in the past. It might be more of like a 50-50 where we're both putting money down in that. But if it's a newer investor, then sometimes they're putting all of the money in. Sometimes I'm chipping in a portion of it. It depends on who it is and the opportunity. So if I really want to get in on something, then I'll.
And what's your goal? Like, what do you want to get out of all this?
The goal is to get to a point where I feel comfortable for my daughter that she's not going to have to worry in the future about anything, really, whether it's, she wants to go to school, she wants to buy a house, really taking care of her. But I also enjoy buying properties, converting them, doing whatever it is. Some of them, whether it's an Airbnb conversion or a commercial project, it's fun. So there's not really a limit or something that I have in mind. Like I want to get to a certain number of properties by a certain age. No real goal setting there, but it's just as opportunities come up, if it makes sense and I can do it, then I'll continue to do it.
So if you see a project that you can get behind, you like the idea, then it's just something you'll do because it's fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt like that was probably the most productive I've ever been as an investor, when I was just doing projects because they were fun. Yeah. Some of those student rental conversions, rejigging the layouts, adding bathrooms, making it really nice. Thinking of what something could be compared to what it is actually a really fun, creative process. And I like problem solving as long as there's not a gun to my head and I got 8,000 things to do. If today's task is figure out how to do this, and I can feel good about it because it makes me money too. That's a nice place to be in.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah. So again, if your question is where do I see myself, it's just continuing to do this. Ideally, I could add a property a year if possible, but I mean, there's no real mindset.
How old's your daughter?
2 years old, or just over 2 years old now.
Just over 2. I didn't know you had a daughter. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, we were just at gymnastics this morning. So that's the other thing about being in real estate and being involved. I can be somewhat flexible. I mean, obviously, it limits me in terms of what I can do. I haven't had. It's funny. I'm going to the Detroit Lions game in the States tomorrow, and went on Monday night to grab my passport, just put it in my bag, just so I made sure that I didn't forget it. And it's been expired for 2 years. I haven't been away since my honeymoon in 2015. So it's been 4 years since I've even done anything. But again, that's being involved in real estate. Sometimes it's hard to get away. But
yeah, that's where the systems come in, right? You gotta have things that are going to allow you to get away. If your tenants don't need you to be there, right? So
and it's not so much the tenant. Sorry,
it's the projects.
The projects and the being a real estate agent.
And being a real estate agent. But you haven't. How long have you been a real estate agent?
For just, close to 4 years.
Okay, so while you were working the other job, you were a real estate agent.
No, I left that job completely. I actually, when I set my mind to something, when I know that's what I'm going to do, I actually left that job before even starting the exams.
So you just said, go get it. I'm going to make it work. And you had obviously some cash flow from your properties that you could probably draw on if you needed to. And you went out and did it. That's awesome, man. So if just to kind of come to a conclusion about the Airbnb thing, because I know we jumped off of it, is that something you would continue to do?
If I saw another one that made sense, I would do it. Yeah.
But it's going to be about the property and the location.
Property and location.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you find something that makes sense, you don't mind running another one.
Yes.
It's not too much of your time.
It took a lot to get it up and running. And that was that 2018 year. I was kind of co-managing the project. I had somebody with more experience in terms of like actually renovating homes and whatnot, who was somewhat overseeing it. But I mean, I was probably doing a little bit more. So running back and forth to Niagara-on-the-Lake and dealing with that when I could, it was a lot to take on. So I had another property I'd bought at the same time. It was a commercial property in Hamilton, and I ended up just selling it a year later after not doing anything to it. The original thought was to convert it into multi-res, but with the time that it took me on the Airbnb, not wanting to take on another major project like that, and the fact that I was able to sell it for a big profit without even putting any money into it at all, it made sense.
Yeah, if you can make a profit without doing anything, take the profit. Sometimes that's the path of least resistance, and it's the right path.
Yeah.
So, hey, that's awesome that you were able to make that happen. Okay, so Dave, if people would like to learn more about you, where should we send them?
I'm not big on social media. I don't have an Instagram account or anything like that, but I have a website just as a real estate agent. So if someone wants to reach out to me, my phone number, email's on there, and I guess that's probably the best way. Just call me.
Okay, so we can put your website URL. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes so that if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can. And any parting wisdom as somebody who's done a lot of real estate investing, and if there's one thing that you could tell yourself back when you were getting started, what would the wisdom you would say?
Get into it. There's always going to be the naysayers. I mean, even my parents, not that they weren't supportive, but they didn't want me to start buying investment properties and thought it was risky. But it's all about surrounding yourself, not even with people, but just information. Do your research, feel confident in yourself and what your approach is going to be, and then just go out and do it. Because without getting the experience, getting your feet wet, it's impossible to kind of move forward. So
yeah, absolutely. You got to get out there. Obviously, like you said, the important part, research, do your due diligence. And if you don't feel confident, don't act. Maybe go find somebody who can help you feel confident and partner with them. That would probably be the better approach than going out and making really expensive mistakes, as I've talked about on this podcast many times that I did. Right. And then, like I said, many times we could definitely do another whole episode here and dig into one more specific topic. So we'll have to stay in touch and kind of keep me posted on what you're up to, Dave.
100%.
But anyways, thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's episode. If you have not already done so, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, please make sure you click that like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Leave me a comment below. And while you're at it, why not share this episode with somebody that you think it can help? I would really appreciate it, and it's going to help this podcast grow and help build the community around it. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next episode.